You've kept a plant alive in the ground for years. Tomatoes, peppers, whatever, no problem. Then you move it into a pot on your patio, and suddenly it's dead in 2 weeks. Here's the part almost nobody explains. It's not your fault, and it's not really about watering more or watering less. When you put a plant in a container, you're changing the physics of its entire root environment. The soil volume shrinks. Temperature swings get more violent. Drainage behaves completely differently than it does in the ground. A pot can swing root zone temperature by 30 degrees Fahrenheit in a single day, something that basically never happens below the surface of open soil. So when a plant is labeled impossible to kill in a container, that's not a marketing phrase. It means that specific plant has a physiological trait, a root structure, a hormone response, a waxy leaf coating, something that lets it absorb the punishment containers dish out. In this video, we're going deep. Not a surface-level list, we're covering the actual biology of why these 18 vegetables survive, the exact container sizes and soil depths that work, the mistakes that kill even resilient crops, real university field trial data, and the gardening myths that are quietly sabotaging your containers right now. If you've ever wondered why your neighbor's balcony garden thrives while yours struggles, stick around, because by the end of this, you'll know exactly what separates a container that produces food for months from one that collapses in a heat wave. This first group shares 2 traits: shallow, forgiving root systems, and the ability to bounce back fast from stress. That combination makes them the most beginner-proof entries on this list, but each one has its own specific weak point worth knowing. Leaf lettuce, Lactuca sativa. Lettuce tolerates a wide swing in moisture and rebounds quickly once you water it again. No thick central stem means wind and rain barely phase it, and it shrugs off frost down to 28 degrees Fahrenheit. In containers, aim for 1 to 2 gallons with about 6 inches of soil depth, spaced 4 to 5 inches apart. Here's the mistake that trips people up constantly: sowing seeds too deep. Lettuce seeds actually need light to germinate. Bury them any deeper than 1/8 of an inch and they may never sprout. Aphids and slugs are your main pests. A strong blast of water knocks off aphids, and diatomaceous earth handles slugs. And when you harvest, take the outer leaves, only leave the central crown intact so it keeps producing. Spinach, Spinacia oleracea. Spinach survives freezing temperatures down to 20 degrees Fahrenheit and tolerates shade better than almost anything else on this list, which makes it perfect for a balcony that doesn't get full sun. Give it a 2-gallon container, 6 to 8 inches deep, in plastic rather than terracotta. The goal is consistent moisture, because dry spells trigger premature bolting. The mistake here is trying to germinate seeds when soil temps are above 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Germination rates crash. Watch for leaf miners, which tunnel visibly through the leaf tissue. Just handpick infected leaves. Feed with high-nitrogen organic fertilizer every 2 weeks and you'll get a steady harvest. Arugula, Iruca vesicaria subsp sativa. Arugula is almost cheating. It's ready to harvest in as little as 30 days, so it often outruns pests entirely. It also produces glucoside compounds that give it that peppery bite, which doubles as a natural insect deterrent. Non-aggressive roots mean you can plant it densely in a shallow window box or railing planter without stunting anything. The one mistake: sowing seeds too deep causes rot before they even emerge. Flea beetles are the main threat, chewing tiny shot holes in the leaves. Cover with fine mesh row covers right after sowing. And if you want to stretch the harvest window in warm weather, plant it in partial shade to delay bolting. Swiss chard, Beta vulgaris var. Cycla. Chard is the toughest of this group. It doesn't bolt quickly in summer heat, and it survives autumn frosts down to 28 degrees Fahrenheit, a genuinely rare dual-season tolerance. But it gets big, up to 2 feet tall, so you need a sturdy 5-gallon-plus container or it'll tip over in wind. Never harvest the central growing tip that halts leaf production entirely. Watch for Cercospora leaf spot, a fungal disease with purple-ringed circular spots. Remove infected leaves and space plants for airflow. Blood meal boosts leafy growth if you want a heavier harvest. Transition. Leafy greens survive because they're structurally simple and recover fast. But the next group survives through a completely different mechanism, a physical armor coating on the leaves themselves. These crops share a defining feature: a thick, waxy cuticle on the leaves that dramatically cuts water loss. That's a real biological adaptation, not a marketing claim. We'll get into the mechanism later in this video. Kale, Brassica oleracea var. Sabelica. Kale is frost-hardy down to a genuinely brutal 10 degrees Fahrenheit, and its robust leaf structure resists wind damage. It'll even tolerate mild nutrient deficiencies or slightly alkaline soil without major stunting. A 5-gallon container is ideal, bigger than the 3-gallon minimum, because it prevents root binding that causes premature yellowing. Fabric grow bags are especially good here for root aeration. Avoid heavy, poorly draining soil that's the fast track to root rot. Cabbage loopers, velvety green caterpillars, are the main pest. Bacillus thuringiensis, BT, handles them organically. Harvest only the lower leaves so the plant grows upward in that classic palm shape. Bonus, light fall frosts actually convert stored starches to sugar, making the leaves sweeter. Collard greens, Brassica oleracea var. Viridis. Collards tolerate both freezing cold and summer heat. Thanks to that thick waxy coating reducing transpiration, it's genuinely one of the most weatherproof plants on this list. Because they can hit 3 feet tall with deep taproots, give them at least 3 to 5 gallons in a heavy, stable pot. The mistake: crowding multiple plants into one small container, which restricts roots and produces small, tough leaves. Watch for bacterial soft rot on stem scars after harvesting. Always cut with clean, sanitized shears, and apply copper-based fungicide if you see decay starting. Bok choy, Brassica rapa subsp chinensis. Bok choy stores water in its thick, succulent white stems, essentially built-in drought insurance. Dwarf varieties like toy choy are made for containers, though it actually wants a deeper pot than you'd expect, 20 inches to support its central root system. Here's a mistake that surprises people. Exposing young seedlings to temperatures below 50 degrees Fahrenheit for multiple nights can trigger early bolting through vernalization. The plant thinks it's already been through winter. Protect spring plantings with row covers. Flea beetles and slugs are the main pests. Diatomaceous earth around the container base manages the slugs. Transition. Now let's talk about the crops that barely need you to feed them at all because they're making their own fertilizer. Alliums bring a different kind of toughness. Shallow, fibrous roots that tolerate serious crowding, plus natural pest-repelling chemical compounds. Green onions, Allium fistulosum. Green onions survive down to 10 degrees Fahrenheit and behave as perennials in zone 6 and warmer. They also regenerate from kitchen scraps, genuinely one of the most forgiving plants you can grow. Their shallow, compact roots adapt to small pots easily and can share space with other crops. The mistake: planting sets too deep, which rots the neck. Thrips' tiny silver flecks on the foliage are the main pest. Insecticidal soap handles them. Trim the tops regularly to encourage thicker stem bases, and in freezing climates, just move the container to a windowsill for winter harvesting. Green garlic, Allium sativum. Green garlic cloves go into the ground in fall, survive freezing winter soil, and sprout automatically come spring. The plant's sulfurous compounds double as a natural pest repellent. Since you're harvesting it young for the green shoots rather than waiting for full bulbs, it doesn't need deep soil. The mistake that ruins a whole crop: planting cloves upside down, which causes weak, distorted growth. Pointed end up, root plate down, always. Overwatering during winter dormancy rots the cloves, so ease off watering in the cold months. Wrap containers in burlap during severe freezes. This group survives on chemistry. Most gardeners never think about a partnership with bacteria that essentially fertilizes the plant for free. Bush beans, Phaseolus vulgaris. Bush beans fix their own nitrogen, dramatically cutting their fertilizer needs. Staying compact at 12 to 24 inches also makes them wind-resistant. A 5-gallon fabric grow bag or plastic pot works well, and they don't need a trellis, one less thing to manage. The mistake: sowing in cold, wet soil, which rots the seed's weight until soil hits at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Over-fertilizing with nitrogen is another common error. It pushes leaf growth at the expense of pods. Spider mites and aphids are the main pests. Keep foliage dry and use insecticidal soap if mites show up. Here's the mechanism behind that self-fertilizing trick. Rhizobium bacteria colonize the roots and form nodules. Inside those nodules, the plant feeds the bacteria carbohydrates, and in exchange, the bacteria use an enzyme called nitrogenase to convert atmospheric nitrogen gas into ammonium the plant can actually use. That's a genuine biochemical reaction happening in your pot. N2 plus hydrogen ions and electrons, powered by ATP, converted into usable nitrogen. No bag of fertilizer required. Bush peas, Pisum sativum. Bush peas tolerate spring and fall frosts down to 28 degrees Fahrenheit and, like beans, need very little added nitrogen thanks to that same fixing capability. A deep plastic planter works, and a small trellis or bamboo stake keeps pods off damp soil. The mistake: Planting too late in spring, when heat dries out the mix and drops flowers before they set fruit. Powdery mildew is the main disease risk. Avoid overhead watering, and apply neem oil if it appears. Transition. So far we've covered leaves and legumes. But some of the toughest plants on this list survive by storing their own emergency water supply underground. These crops use underground storage tissue roots or tubers as a buffer against water stress. Radishes, Raphanus sativus. Radishes mature absurdly fast, 21 to 35 days, which lets them dodge nearly every pest and disease window. They tolerate average, low-nutrient soil and grow fine in shallow containers or even window boxes. The mistake: skipping thinning. Crowded radishes physically can't develop bulbous roots thin to 2 inches apart early. Flea beetles are the main pest. Insect netting over the container helps. Avoid sowing in peak summer heat, which makes roots woody and overly spicy. Beets, Beta vulgaris subsp. vulgaris. Beets give you a dual harvest. Greens and roots are both edible, and their fleshy roots store water reserves that buy time during dry spells. They need at least 8 inches of soil depth. Deep plastic pots or grow bags work well. Here's a mistake almost everyone makes without realizing it. Beet seeds are actually multi-germ fruit clusters, meaning each seed produces multiple seedlings. Skip thinning and you get small, misshapen roots. Use shears to thin to 3 inches apart once seedlings reach 2 inches tall. Leaf miners can show up. Remove affected leaves immediately. Hybrid varieties like Burrow and Zeppo are worth seeking out for bolt resistance. More on that from an actual university trial in a minute. Turnips, Brassica rapa subsp. rapa. Turnips are fast, hardy, and tolerate poor soil, and the greens can be cut repeatedly without killing the plant. A 3 to 5 gallon container with at least 8 inches of depth and good drainage keeps root rot at bay. The mistake: inconsistent watering, which makes turnip roots woody and prone to cracking. Flea beetles are the primary pest. Keep moisture steady, thin to 4 inches apart, and harvest before roots exceed 3 inches across. Potatoes, Solanum tuberosum. Potatoes are remarkably forgiving of average soil, recover quickly from leaf damage, and lean on stored tuber reserves for drought tolerance. But they need real volume, 10 to 25 gallons, and breathable fabric grow bags are strongly preferred because they drain evenly and prevent rot. The mistake that actually matters for food safety: letting developing tubers get exposed to sunlight, which turns the skin green and produces toxic solanine. The fix is hilling, progressively mounding soil around the stems every 8 inches as the plant grows. Colorado potato beetles are the main pest. Hand-pick them if you see them. Transition. Last group, and these are the ones most people assume are fragile. Turns out, the dwarf and determinate varieties completely flip that assumption. Cherry tomatoes, Solanum lycopersicum var. Cerasiform. Cherry tomatoes are dramatically more resilient than large-fruited heirlooms. A cherry tomato plant can go completely limp from dry soil and fully rebound within hours of a deep watering. Heirlooms often can't do that. Determinate varieties like Tiny Tim or Patio Princess stay compact 2 to 3 feet, making them a great fit for 5 to 10 gallon pots. The mistake: inconsistent watering, which triggers blossom end rot. A calcium uptake disorder caused by irregular moisture, not a lack of calcium in the soil. We'll bust a related myth about this shortly. Tomato hornworms are the main pest. Keep soil evenly moist, use a small cage for support, and switch to a low-nitrogen, high-phosphorus fertilizer once flowering starts to push fruit set. Dwarf peppers, Capsicum annuum. Dwarf peppers thrive in heat that would stress out other crops. Hot balconies and concrete patios are actually their comfort zone. Woody, rigid stems resist wind, and compact foliage limits water loss. A 3 to 5 gallon container works, and darker pots are actually a benefit here. They warm the root zone earlier in the season. The mistake: overwatering in a slow-draining pot, which causes root rot, yellowing, and flower drop. Aphids cluster on the undersides of new leaves. A strong water spray knocks them off. Let the top inch of soil dry between waterings. If there's one thing to take from all of this, it's that resilient doesn't mean ignore it and it'll be fine. Every plant on this list survives specific stresses because of specific biology, and once you understand that biology, you stop guessing and start gardening with actual intent. That's the difference between a container that limps along and one that keeps producing all season. If this helped you understand your own container garden a little better, drop a comment and let me know which of these 18 you're growing right now or which one surprised you most. And if you want more breakdowns like this, backed by real research instead of recycled gardening advice, subscribing means you won't miss the next one. See you in the next video.